Can you tell us any funny behind-the-scenes moments that you had with any of them?
Well, I got to touch Blake's boots once. It was a phenomenal scene where she looked gorgeous and she had these amazing boots on. We were backstage and I was like, can I just touch them? And then afterwards I was mortified. I was like, did I really just ask if I could touch
I probably would have too. That's like all of
shoes?
our dreams and everybody in this room right now.
Hey besties, welcome back to the channel. Things just got real spicy down in Texas. Well, I'm not in Texas, but that's exactly where Jed Wallace is, and apparently, we've hit an impasse. One that none of us were expecting. Well, actually, I kind of was expecting it, but let me explain what happened. So, last week, Judge Lyman officially dismissed Jed Wallace from the New York lawsuit, ruling that Wallace isn't a New York citizen. Basically, Wallace argued that the New York court had no jurisdiction over him. And guess what? The judge agreed. He said, yeah, Blake hasn't proven that this court has jurisdiction. Meaning, Blake Lively is now free to refile her case, but she'll have to do it in the proper court. And that's exactly where the problem begins. Because remember last week, I told y'all, if Lively refiled in Texas, her previous motion to dismiss would become moot.
Why?
Because in Texas, she's been telling a federal judge in Austin that they don't have jurisdiction over her either. She's basically saying, just because I came to Texas to film another simple favor doesn't mean you can drag me into court here. She also denied that any of her loose connections to Texas give the court personal jurisdiction. So in short, Jed tried to pull the exact same move that Lively used against him, and it didn't work for either of them. The Texas court ended up siding with Lively, saying, "You're right, we don't have personal jurisdiction over you." Now, this case has been sitting for months, fully briefed since July, and the final dismissal comes in at a whopping 21 pages. The funny part? The judge issued this ruling right after Jed notified the court that Lively had already been dismissed from his New York case for lack of jurisdiction. Here's what the judge wrote. Neither party asserts that the court has general personal jurisdiction over the defendant. Instead, the plaintiff argues that the court has specific personal jurisdiction, meaning her contacts with Texas aren't widespread, but allegedly connected to this case. In other words, specific jurisdiction only applies if the defendant purposefully engages with a state, like doing business or making money there, and the case arises directly from those contacts. It's meant to prevent random or accidental lawsuits in states where people have barely any ties. So, Jed tried to connect Blake's work on other projects to this lawsuit, but the court wasn't buying it. The judge summed it up perfectly. The Rule 202 petition that Blake filed earlier in Texas didn't magically give the court power over her. So here's where things get even more interesting. The court didn't just dismiss it casually. They went point by point through every argument Jed tried to make. First, the judge said that Blake's Rule 202 petition, the one where she asked the Texas court to allow a deposition, does not subject her to personal jurisdiction. Filing that petition wasn't the same as starting an actual lawsuit. Second, the judge rejected the so-called Calder effects test argument. Basically, Jed tried to argue that Blake's alleged actions had enough impact in Texas to give the court authority over her. The judge disagreed completely. And lastly, the court dismissed Jed's claim that Blake repeated defamatory statements while she was physically in Texas. The judge called that a failed attempt to manufacture jurisdiction. And honestly, when I read how Jed was trying to weave that together, I knew this case was headed straight for dismissal. But here's the thing, I actually think this was a strategic move on Jed's part. Because now, with this dismissal, he gets to prove that Blake's original Rule 202 petition wasn't enough to establish jurisdiction either. She had asked the court to depose him, and Jed argued that by filing it in Texas, she availed herself of that court. But the judge didn't agree, because Rule 202 isn't an original action. Now, about that Calder effect argument, Jed tried to claim that Blake's CRD complaint, which this entire case is based on, was aimed at Texas, where both plaintiffs reside, and therefore caused them harm. He pointed out that her draft complaint even mentioned that Jed is based in Texas, and said that should count as targeting him. But again, the judge said nope. That's not enough. And when Jed tried to use the information and belief standard to fill in the gaps, the court said that's not substantial evidence either. So in the end, the judge concluded The plaintiffs have failed to establish that the defendant is subject to this court's personal jurisdiction, which means case dismissed under Rule 12b. 2. The court didn't even bother addressing any other issues because this alone settled everything. Now, notice how this mirrors Blake's win in New York. Neither court ever touched the actual claims or allegations. They both ended on jurisdiction. So, what happens next? Honestly, probably nothing major, at least not right away. But get this, just today, Blake's legal team filed a fiery new response in New York, accusing Jed of abusing redactions, hiding evidence, and sealing too many documents. They even pointed out that Jed hasn't refiled yet, which makes sense because I think both sides are waiting to see who blinks first. Because, let's be real, this situation is tricky for both of them. If Blake says, "Okay, fine, I'll sue him in Texas," well, Judge Lyman already said New York doesn't have jurisdiction. But Texas just said the same thing. And California? That's another mess. Even if Jed worked with Wayfair or got paid through California contracts, that doesn't make him a California resident. He's based in Texas. And if Jed tries to flip it like, "Okay, then I'll sue her in California," he runs into the same wall. Blake doesn't live there either, and the only California connection is that she filed the CRD complaint there. So yeah, he could try to argue California is the right place because that's where it all started, but realistically, it's a headache. Plus, it means travel, costs, and another jurisdiction fight that could drag on for months. And here's where it gets really tricky. If you're not from California, why on earth would you submit yourself to California's jurisdiction? Doing that would actually open the door for Blake to turn around and say, "Okay, fine. I'm going to file my lawsuit against you here too." Because once you voluntarily submit to a jurisdiction, anything can happen. So let's break it down. If Blake goes to Texas and files against Jed, he can immediately refile and argue. See? Now she availed herself because she actually filed an action here. On the flip side, if Jed tries to sue in New York, Blake could simply refile and add him into the case. At this point, neither side has any incentive to go to the other's home court. Jed doesn't want to be dragged into New York, and Blake doesn't want to go to Texas. Both fought to stay out of these jurisdictions, and both won. That means refiling in either of those courts? Pretty much a bad idea for either side. So, the only forum left standing is California. But here's where the complications pile up. Blake would now have to explain to a California court why she didn't originally file her entire lawsuit there. And she would have to justify how she obtained the contents of Jen Abel's phone without a proper California subpoena. Here's why that matters. Under California law, if you subpoena someone's phone or employer records, the employee must be notified. Even if the company isn't based in California, the law protects the employee. So, Blake's subpoena wasn't done in California. It was done in New York. That means she can't simply carry that evidence over into a California court. She would need to cure the subpoena, following California's chain of custody and discovery rules. Even if she did that, she'd still have to explain why she initially initiated the action with a subpoena that wouldn't have been allowed in California. In short, she never filed in California because she couldn't. There was no legal way to obtain Jen Abel's phone contents under California law without following state-specific procedures. The evidence from New York just doesn't transfer automatically. So now, the whole thing becomes this jurisdictional minefield, where one wrong move could undo everything. It's legal chess at the highest level, and both sides are carefully avoiding a trap that could blow the case wide open. So here's the kicker. Blake isn't filing in California, and for good reason. If she did, she'd be in serious trouble for what happened with Vanzin, and the entire case could collapse on a technicality alone. All that she obtained in New York doesn't matter. The original action was already built on shaky ground, a subpoena where no one was properly noticed. And that's why Jed won't go to California either. Why would he willingly submit to a state he doesn't even live in? Blake can't risk it either. If she tries, Vanzin could blow the case wide open. Honestly, maybe she should go to California just so the state can fully expose what went down. But she won't. And the way the Wallace side responded? Absolutely wild. The court called them out. The Wallace parties abused the sealing process, applying self-serving redactions to hide their conduct from public view. Translation? They're trying to cover their tracks, even after Blake's documents were unsealed and public. Here's what's really important. The court demanded the Wallace parties produce info about their work for other clients.
Why?
Because Blake is entitled to see whether those digital footprints match the work allegedly done for street relations. And remember, Jed isn't even a party anymore. He's completely out of the case. But that didn't stop the Wallace team from trying to hide crucial info. Their proposed redactions were clearly designed to keep the public from seeing these digital footprints, which go straight to the heart of Blake's retaliation claims, even if Jed isn't a defendant anymore. And get this, the Wallace defendants claimed they auto-deleted Signal messages connected to their work for Wayfair. Not that they destroyed evidence. Signal just automatically deletes messages. Yet the court already ruled that no evidence was spoiled. Still, they tried to use redactions to cover it up. Meanwhile, Blake's camp? Just as messy. She deleted her 30-point agreement, claimed privilege over Colleen Hoover's texts, and refused to hand over crucial info to Wayfair. Obstruction, deletion, and manipulation. Yet somehow it's everyone else's fault. Blake even argued that the Wallace team's conduct, like manipulating social media platforms, was something the public shouldn't have access to. Seriously. She's hiding behind privilege while controlling the narrative, twisting the story so it paints her as the victim, even when the evidence says otherwise. This isn't just a legal battle anymore. It's strategy, manipulation, and power plays being fought in real time, right under everyone's nose. And the wildest part? The public sees only the polished statements, the sealed documents, and the carefully edited stories. But behind the scenes, it's a complete mess. Alright besties, let's break this down because it's getting absolutely wild. The Wallace party's whole application? It's basically saying unsealing info might trigger public backlash. Seriously? That's their argument? Ridiculous. So here's what's really happening. Blake is trying to prove she was smeared. Except everything we've seen so far says otherwise. There's no evidence of a smear campaign. Nothing.
Nada.
And yet, her team is acting like it's this catastrophic revelation that's about to hit. 2 weeks ago, they were demanding sanctions, claiming that the other side can't even say there wasn't a digital campaign because the Signal messages got auto-deleted. But here's the truth. It's all for show. Every single email, every court filing, every exaggerated claim is basically a highlight reel of Blake's tactics. We've seen her lawyers' emails, her court filings, her attempts to twist the docket. And each time, it's a reflection on her behavior. She's lying about everything. She claimed other women were coming forward, but Colleen Hoover never intended to sue Baldoni. That never happened. Meanwhile, Wayfair?
Totally fine.
They're transparent. But Blake? We don't see any of her texts, any communications, and she's aggressively blocking discovery requests. She's filing motions tonight just to control the narrative, to deflect, and to try to get ahead of what's about to drop. And trust me, there's more coming, and it's not going to look good for Blake. And Jed, I feel so bad for him. He's caught in this mess, and he's done nothing wrong. Whatever covert things people think he might do, this?
Not his doing.
He doesn't deserve the stress, the scrutiny, or the public backlash he's getting. Honestly, Blake, wake up. The only reason people are frustrated? It's because of you. Bottom line, neither side is going to refile, and this whole fight? Totally unnecessary. But the filings, the redactions, the strategic moves, they're all just part of this high-stakes chess game, and we're here watching it play out in real time. So now I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and click the bell so you never miss a breakdown like this. Thanks so much for watching, besties. Stay tuned. This story isn't over.